Hey guys, welcome back to Beyond the Box Score, and I am your host Hayat. Alright, let's lock in because this is one of those slates where I actually think there's real value if you're paying attention. For the 26th of February we have got College of Charleston at Hampton, FAU at Temple, Michigan State at Purdue, Wichita State at Memphis, and North Dakota State at Saint Thomas Tommies. That's a mix of CAA, AAC, Big Ten, and Summit League action all on one board. Early tips, conference battles, revenge spots, and a couple of games where I think the number is telling a story, and I'm not sure the market is fully aligned with it. As always, I'm going to walk through this the same way I do on camera, thinking out loud, working through the matchup angles, the tempo, the recent form, the spreads, the totals, the situational spots, and just seeing where the value connects. No guarantees, no promises, just pure analysis and opinion. So let's get into it. First we got College of Charleston at Hampton. The lean here is College of Charleston lay the points. Let me walk through why. So we've got some early CAA action going down on this Thursday. This game starts at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm in the Mountain Time Zone, so this thing will start at 9 a.m. Eastern Time for me, and I love these early games, I really do. There's something about these early tips where I feel like if you're locked in before the rest of the slate even wakes up, you can really find value. And I actually like this game. I think there's some opportunities to cash in. College of Charleston, Hampton. This game is being played at Hampton, Virginia to be exact, and I feel like we've got to take College of Charleston in this one though, guys. I feel like this line, this price, it seems a little bit too good to be true, which scares me a little, but when I really sit with it and think it through, this should be a good matchup for College of Charleston. We've already seen these teams play once this season back on January 10th. Hampton was catching 9.5 points in that game, and they only lost by 4. So Hampton did get the cover the first time these teams met up. And that's important, right? Because if this matchup plays out like the first one, if Hampton hangs around, slows it down, makes it ugly, then yeah, laying points gets uncomfortable. But what connects for me is how College of Charleston has gotten better as the season has gone on. When I look at this team in the last 10 games, they've won 8 of their last 10. They've also covered in 8 of their last 10. And the thing about College of Charleston this season is when they win, they covered. That's not random. That tells me that when they assert themselves, they don't just squeak by, they create separation. Even as favorites, especially as of late, it's been for good reason. And usually they win by margin. So when I look at this number and I compare it to what we saw on January 10th when Hampton was catching 9.5 and only lost by 4, I ask myself, has Hampton improved enough offensively to close that gap again? Because when I dig into the numbers, I just think Hampton's going to have a tough time to keep up in this game. Hampton prides themselves on the defensive side of the ball. Sure, but they're horrific on the offensive side of the ball. They're shooting the 3 ball at a 29.1% rate this season. They're shooting the 2-point ball at a 46.3% rate this season. Both of those categories, they're ranking in the 300s in all of college basketball. That's not just below average, that's near the bottom of the country. Just terrible. They also have turnover problems. So if this matchup plays out like the numbers suggest, if Hampton is already inefficient at 29.1% from 3 and 46.3% from 2 and then they're coughing it up on top of that, where are the extra possessions coming from? Where are the easy buckets coming from? And here's the other thing, according to Kim Palm, even though Hampton prides himself on the defensive side of the ball, Kim Palm still has College of Charleston as a better defensive team all around. So the one edge I could maybe look at for Hampton in this game is their defense, but even there, College of Charleston has had a better defensive performance this season. So if Hampton doesn't have a clear defensive edge and they're clearly inferior offensively, what's the path? One path I see here is Hampton trying to grind this into a half-court rock fight, hoping College of Charleston has an early morning sluggish start, but even then, College of Charleston has a winning record on the road. It's not like these guys are incompetent when playing away from South Carolina. Now I will give Hampton this, they are 9-1 straight up at home this season. That matters. That's real. If this game plays out with Hampton feeding off that home crowd in Hampton, Virginia, if they dictate tempo, if they make this a 60s type of game, then sure, maybe they hang around again. But College of Charleston being 8-2 in their last 10, covering in 8 of their last 10, and having that profile where when they win, they covered, that's what sticks with me. This team is hot right now. And at this price, I don't mind laying the short number. It feels scary because it feels too easy. But when I connect the offensive inefficiency from Hampton at 29.1% from 3 and 46.3% from 2, the turnover problems, the fact that KenPom still rates College of Charleston as the better defensive team, I just see more paths to margin for College of Charleston than I do for Hampton to spring the upset. Yeah, for me, it's College of Charleston lay the points. That's the lean, and that's where I'm sticking. Now let's move to FAU and Temple, and the lean here is Temple in the points. This one is fascinating to me because the records are similar and the standings are tight. FAU comes in 15-13 on the year, 15-1 against the number, but they've dropped 7 of their last 8 after a 7,372 road loss to North Texas. That's not a small skid. That's a real trend. Temple, on the other hand, is 15-12 on the year, 10-16 against the number, and they've lost 4 straight after that 6,957 loss to Wichita State. I remember the first meeting. It was a 7,973 win for FAU. Temple fought all the way back, FAU pulled away late. That game stuck with me. But that was then, this is now. And if this matchup plays out like FAU's recent stretch has played out, we're talking about a team that is 3-7 straight up in their last 10 going back to that Temple game. In February alone, they've had losses by 1, 28 against Rice on the road, that's a head-scratcher, 2-1. They've played a lot of close games. And that's exactly why I don't want to lay 5 points with FAU. If this is another one-possession game, and everything about their profile screams that it could be, then 5 points is a lot to give. What connects for me is the free throw discrepancy. In AAC play, FAU is shooting below 69% from the free throw line. That's 12th in the AAC. There is only one team shooting worse at the foul line in conference play. That's dangerous when you're laying 4 or 5 points. I've said it forever, when I back a team in a tight line like this, I want the team that's going to hit their free throws. Those late-game free throws are the difference between cashing and ripping up a ticket. Temple is shooting 74.6% from the line in conference play. That's a real gap, and if this game is tight in the final minute, I want the better free throw shooting team in my pocket. Temple also takes care of the basketball. They're the second best team at protecting the rock in AAC play. If FAU isn't forcing turnovers, I don't see how they create separation. And Temple is 4th in the conference in forcing turnovers on defense. FAU can be careless with the basketball. That's a dangerous combo. If Temple protects it and forces FAU into mistakes, suddenly this isn't about laying 5, it's about whether FAU can even create margin at all. If this matchup plays out like most of FAU's February games, tight, scrappy, within a possession, then 5 points is gold. I'm not saying Temple is suddenly peaking. They've lost 4 straight. They started 7-3 in conference and then fell off a cliff. But I don't see enough of a gap between these two teams right now to justify this spread. One path I see is another game in the 70s, coming down to free throws and ball security. And in that script, Temple checks more boxes for me. Yeah, the lean sticks at Temple in the points. Next game we have Michigan State at Purdue. The lean here is Michigan State plus 6.5. Let me walk through why. So while I'm recording this, it looks like Purdue laying 6.5 points in this game. 6.5. And I'm not going to lie, I'm struggling a little bit to find a massive edge in this game. I honestly think that number is pretty spot on. When I handicap this game myself, I set the line Purdue laying 6, maybe Purdue laying 5.5 around there. So at 6.5, maybe I give a slight edge to Michigan State. And in a game where the total is set at 140.5, that matters to me. If this matchup plays out like the total suggests at 140.5, meaning it's a lower scoring game, a little more half court, a little more physical, then I would rather be on the side getting 6.5 points. Points are more valuable in a game lined at 140.5 than they are in a game lined at 155 or 160. So immediately that's where my brain goes. I'm not saying Purdue can't win by margin, they absolutely can. Purdue is much sharper on the offensive side of the ball. That's just reality. But Michigan State has the advantage on the defensive side of the ball. So what connects for me is the contrast. Purdue offense versus Michigan State defense. Now, Michigan State has failed to cover in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 5 of their last 7 games. So they haven't been great against the number. That's a red flag, I'm not ignoring it. But in a big step-up game like this, one path I see here is Michigan State giving their best effort. When they're doubted, when they're catching 6.5, when the narrative leans Purdue laying 6.5 at home, I think that's when you get Michigan State's best. And I think they keep this one close. Both these teams don't turn over the ball too much. So I don't really see a big problem there on either side in terms of gifting transition buckets. That makes me think this could be more half-court oriented. More execution. And in that kind of game, I want the points. If this game is sitting at 4 or 5 points with 3 minutes left, now I've got 6.5 in my back pocket. That's a good place to be. Purdue laying 6.5, total at 140.5, I set it at Purdue laying 6 or 5.5, so I'm not saying the books are way off. I think they got this one pretty much right. I don't see a massive edge on either side. But if I'm forced to pick, if I have to lean somewhere, I lean towards Michigan State. I could see this one being a little bit more low scoring, a little bit more gritty, where points come at a premium. And in that matchup, I'd rather have 6.5. So yeah, I don't know if I'm going to bet this. 1, I think there might be better spots on the board, but the lean here is Michigan State plus 6.5. And that's where I'm landing. Quick pause, if you've got an even one lean you like so far, hit the like button right now. Seriously, if even one angle made you think a little differently about a matchup, that tells me these full slate breakdowns are worth doing. And if you want to help the channel grow, hit that like and subscribe button. It takes you 1 second, but it means everything to the channel. The more support these videos get, the more deep dives we keep rolling out. Next we are up to Wichita State and Memphis, and the lean here is Wichita State. Okay, so let me walk through why, because when I look at this matchup, I feel like I'm staring at a number that just doesn't line up with what I've watched all season. You've got Wichita State coming in 18-10 on the year, 10-5 in conference, and they've won 3 in a row after that 6,957 win over Temple in their last game. That matters. Momentum matters this time of year. Meanwhile Memphis is 12-15 overall, 7-7 in conference play, and they're coming off a 7,867 loss to UAB. And I keep coming back to this, Memphis was supposed to be one of the front runners in the AAC. They just were. And it hasn't happened. It hasn't materialized. If this matchup plays out like most of Memphis' season has played out, then we're looking at a team that hasn't been able to separate when expected to. Highest they got was 4-1. They've fallen back to 500 at 7-7. And yes, I will give them credit, the non-conference gauntlet was real. In terms of KenPom rankings, they played 7 teams in the top 100 in the non-con. Miss, Purdue, Wake Forest, Baylor, Louisville, Vanderbilt, and Mississippi State. That's not light work. They went 1-6 straight up in those games, but they were competitive. I'm not ignoring that, but what connects for me is the role Memphis is in here. They're laying points at home. Maybe it's only a bucket, fine. But the system has been crystal clear all year. You fade Memphis when they're a favorite and you back them as an underdog when they're catching a hefty amount of points. That underdog angle has worked more often than not. I personally faded Memphis against UAB on the weekend. That was my perfect storm play of the day, and UAB won outright as 4.5-point dogs. They won by 11. That wasn't fluky. That was consistent with what we've seen. One path I see here is Memphis trying to lean into the revenge narrative. It's a revenge spot at home. Penny Hardaway can say he's not worried, but you should be worried. This program was expected to contend. And unless they're going to be a bid stealer by winning the American Conference outright, which sure, in this American Conference that doesn't look that strong this year, maybe it's possible, but are we really betting on that version of Memphis right now? I'm not. Wichita State, on the other hand, is still in the mix for the regular season title in the AAC. They're chasing down South Florida, tied with Tulsa right now. That's real motivation. Yes, they had to take East Carolina to double overtime on the road. Yes, they had to go toe-to-toe with Tulane. Yes, they needed overtime to beat USF on the road. But what I see there isn't weakness, I see resilience. They've been battle-tested in conference games that come down to possessions. If this becomes another grind-it-out AAC game, and I think it will, I trust Wichita State more in that environment. I think A, Wichita State is the better team. And B, we're getting points with the better team. Usually, that's a pretty good way to make money. I don't want to overthink it. Memphis as a favorite has burned people. Wichita State is a contender still chasing something meaningful. That resonates with me. Yeah, the lean sticks at Wichita State. Now we have North Dakota State at Saint Thomas Tommies. The lean here is Saint Thomas Tommies lay the points. Let me walk through why. We got some Summit League action and I'm pumped for this one, man. I love me some Tommies basketball. I feel like I may have made a video on Saint Thomas earlier this season, and I'm glad I'm talking about them again because this is a really fun team to watch. And this isn't just some random mid-tier conference matchup. This is the #1 team in the Summit League in North Dakota State, and the Tommies are second in the Summit League. These are the top 2 teams in this conference. So if this matchup plays out like a true top-of-the-table battle, I want to be on the side that I think has the higher offensive ceiling and the better situational setup. We did see these teams play back on January 17th of 2026, so not so long ago. That game was being played at North Dakota. North Dakota was laying 2.5 points and they won that game by 3. So right there, that tells me these teams are close. That was a tight spread at 2.5, and it landed right around that number. But what connects for me is how that game actually looked. That was probably one of St. Thomas's worst performances this season. They just couldn't get going. For a team like St. Thomas to only put up 68 points, that's not who they are. That's not their identity. If this matchup plays out with St. Thomas scoring 68 again, sure, maybe North Dakota State grinds it out. But I don't project that. St. Thomas runs. They play running and gun. They want tempo. They want space. They want pace. And they put up a ton of points. When you look at their numbers, they're putting up damn near 100 points in a lot of their games. That's not random. That's systemic. And here's the number that really jumps off the page for me. Their 2-point percentage this season, their shots inside the arc ranked #1 in the country. #1. They're shooting the 2 ball at a 63.8% rate. 63.8%. That's just wild. That's elite finishing. So if this matchup plays out like their season averages suggest, if they're getting downhill, if they're attacking the rim, if they're converting at anything close to 63.8%, then I think they create separation. Now I'm not ignoring the recent form. St. Thomas has actually lost 2 of their last 3 games. So yeah, their stock is dropping a little bit in the market. I can feel it, but for those reasons, I actually think we're getting them at a pretty fair price in this one. One path I see here is people overreacting to 2 losses in the last 3 games and forgetting what this team is at its core. This is still the second team in the Summit League. This is still a team that shoots 63.8% from 2, ranked #1 in the country. This is still a team that doesn't turn over the ball. And they're the bigger team. And I think the situational angle matters a lot here. St. Thomas has played 4 of their last 5 games on the road. That's not easy. Travel, different environments, different rims, different pace. And St. Thomas has been much better at home this season. They're 12-1 straight up at home. 12-1. That's dominance. So if this matchup plays out with St. Thomas back in their own building, comfortable, playing at their preferred tempo, after grinding through 4 of 5 on the road, that's a completely different version of this team than the one that showed up and put up 68 on January 17th of 2026. And then you layer in the revenge factor. North Dakota was laying 2.5 and won by 3 on January 17th of 2026. That's fresh. That's recent. These kids remember that. If this matchup plays out with St. Thomas playing with that edge, that memory, that chip on their shoulder from losing by 3 as a small underdog, that's fuel. Add to that they're coming off a loss against Denver. So now you've got a revenge spot, you've got a bounce back spot, and you've got a home court reset after 4 of the last 5 on the road. That's a lot of converging angles. When I compare skill level, I think these teams are very similar. North Dakota State is #1 in the Summit League for a reason. But what connects for me is the offensive upside. If Saint Thomas is finishing at 63.8% inside the arc, ranked number 1 in the country. If they're the bigger team, if they're not turning it over, and if they're at home where they're 12-1 straight up, I just see more paths to them winning by margin than I do to North Dakota State controlling this game again. Could North Dakota State keep it close? Sure. If this game slows down, if Saint Thomas gets stuck in the half court again and somehow ends up around 68 points like January 17 of 2026, then yeah, we're sweating it. But if it looks like most Saint Thomas games, if they're pushing, scoring damn near 100 in rhythm, converting at that 63.8% rate inside, then I think this becomes a statement game for the Tommies as the second team in the Summit League trying to send a message to the number 1 team in the Summit League. So for me, in this revenge spot, off a loss against Denver, back home where they're 12-1 straight up, after playing 4 of their last 5 games on the road, with the number 1 ranked 2-point percentage in the country at 63.8%, being the bigger team and not turning it over, yeah, I'm laying it. Give me Saint Thomas Tommies lay the points. That's the lean, and that's where I'm staying. Alright, so to recap where I landed. College of Charleston lay the points. Temple in the points against FAU. Michigan State plus 6.5 at Purdue. Wichita State in that matchup against Memphis. Saint Thomas Tommies lay the points at home against North Dakota State. That's the board. That's how I'm seeing it. Some of these are situational edges. Some of these are matchup edges. Some of these are just number value in lower total games. But across the board, I'm trying to connect tempo, efficiency, and where margin is most likely to show up. As always, this is purely analysis and opinion based on matchups, numbers, and trends. Nothing is guaranteed. Bet responsibly. If you rock with the breakdowns, make sure you're subscribed, and I'll be back breaking down the next slate the exact same way, messy, honest, thinking out loud.